All right, now that we've actually created the visual representation of our timer, we need to get our timer counting down. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm first going to come over here to my lobby map. I want to get into content, blueprints in all levels. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new blueprint. So I can right click, blueprint class. I'm going to expand. If it's not expanded already, I want to expand all classes, and I'm just going to type in game state. Okay, here's my game state, and I want to click on that and click select. And now I'm just going to name it my game state, just like that, and hit enter. And what a game state does is basically it tells us the state of the game. And why we're going to put a timer in here is because it gets run on the server and then it gets replicated out to the clients. So just like your cell phone, it pulls in the time from a server off somewhere else in the world. And so it ensures that everybody has the same time on all their cell phones. So that's kind of what the game state is. So I'm just going to double click to open it up. And then I'm going to go to the event graph right here, okay? Now, the first thing that I want to do here in the game state is create a couple variables, okay? And we're going to work through this backwards so it's more understandable. And don't worry, there's going to be a lot that we do, but it's all going to be kind of laid out for you in the visuals, in the pictures that you're looking at, so that you don't have to remember every little thing that I do. You can refer back to it. So I'm going to hit plus here, and I'm first going to type in seconds, okay, and hit enter. And then I'm going to change this by clicking on this little picture, this little icon. I'm going to change this to an integer. Then I'm going to come over here into the seconds details, and I want to replicate this so that it gets pushed out over the network to all the clients, okay? And if it's not replicated, it's not, our functions aren't going to work properly, okay? The next thing I want to do is add another variable, and I'm going to call this one time, and hit enter. And this one is going to be a float, and it does not have to be replicated, all right? Now we can start creating some events in here. So we're going to add a custom event. And guys, get used to adding custom events, because when we're programming or scripting for client server or multiplayer, we need to use custom events. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click in here. I'm going to say add custom event. There it is right there. And I'm going to give it a name. And this is just going to be get time. And this is just the arbitrary name I'm giving it, though, you know, to make it understandable, but if it could be all lowercase if you want it to. All right, so there we go, get time. And then what I'm going to do is drag off here and do a branch. There it is. And this is just a flow control thing here, because what we're going to say is if a certain condition is true, then we want to execute this node. If this certain condition is false, then we want to execute this node. All right, and we'll do that condition in just a second, but I'm going to drag off of here something called decrementing, and I'm just going to do minus minus, and we're going to decrement an int. And I bet you probably know what we're going to decrement, or take one away from, or take a certain, yeah, so we're gonna look at this, it's just subtract one from a value. That's all decrement does. I'm going to drag off of this and say seconds. There we go, and we're going to get the seconds. It's under the variable default and get seconds, just like that. And notice something interesting here. We have two little spheres on here. That means that this variable is replicated. If you don't see those two spheres, then you forgot to replicate it. All right, and then what I want to do is I want to set the seconds. So I want to set seconds, just like that. Boom. Oops, don't want to drag off. I want to move this over here and connect up these two light colored pins. And so now what it does is it says, okay, it's true. It subtracts 1 from seconds and then stores it back in here, so that when it goes through the loop again, it's like, okay, 9 minus 1 is 8. Then it stores it in here. As it goes through the loop again, it goes, okay, what was the variable? Oh, it was 8 minus 1, and then sets it to 7. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to work on the condition, and we're going to work forward for this one. We're just going to say right click, and I'm going to type in player array. And all the player array is all the players that are connected to the session. So that could be the person hosting it and any other players that have joined in on the session. That's what's in a player array. And we want to find out, well, how many players that is, and we can just type in length of that to find that out. Once we have that number, we're going to drag off this one, and we're going to say greater than or equal to, and we want to do an integer to an integer. Very important. And then let's actually, I'm going to highlight this and just move it over. We are going to connect this condition up there, the red pin, up to that red pin. And we want to say, basically this is saying is, If there are, we're going to say 2 in here, 2 or more players inside of the lobby, then we're going to start counting the timer. If there's only 1 or less, well, we don't want to start counting the timer. This is a battle royale game. We want more than 1 person in the game. If there's only 1 person in the game, that's no fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another timer. I'm sorry, not another timer. I'm going to create another custom function. So add custom function, and I'm going to call this one start timer. Let's zoom in on it. Not start time niner. There we go. Start timer. And off of this one, off this node, I'm going to drag and say set timer by function name, like that. And we're just going to work our way down to these different pins. Inside here, I want to call this event. So I'm just going to say get timer. Or get time, sorry, get time. I have to spell that exactly how I spelled it right here. And off of this one, you know what I can do? I can just drag out this variable and right over the top of that, and boom. Let's compile it at this point and put in 1 here for our time. We want the default value to be 1 because this timer will execute every 1 second. So let's go ahead and click on looping because we want that function to loop. There we go. And we have to use a timer here for a specific reason instead of doing it another way. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to call this event. It's like a cascading call of events. So we're going to do that when the level loads for the first time, which is on event begin play. We want to start the timer. So I'm just going to drag off this, and I'm just going to say start timer. There it is. Boom. Okay, so it says, okay, the game starts. Let's start the timer. So it starts the timer, and this one will call this function every single time this function gets kicked off, gets fired off. So this gets fired off. It goes in here. It says, okay, is there more than 2 players in there? Yeah, there's more than 2 players in there. So let's decrement seconds by 1, and then we want to set the seconds. Okay. All right, now let's compile and save. And you know what? Let's go ahead and stop there. Now, our timer won't work just yet. If I hit play, our countdown timer isn't working yet, but we've made a lot of strides. So just go in there. We want to remember, create. We want to go to lobby map, and we want to create our game, our my game state. That's where it all starts. And inside my game state is where we're going to put some of our visual scripting with our 3 or 2 custom events. Okay, so go ahead, get that. Don't forget to save, and then we're going to do part 3 of our timer. All right, I'll see you in a little bit.